And so I'm going to walk you through some of the stuff that I do when I work on a horse. I normally, when I start, I always start their head and work my way all the way down the body. There's a line called the bladder meridian. It runs from their pole all the way down through their shoulder, their back, around down to their back foot. Now, that's kind of the line I like to initially start working on, because as you release along that line, you get a lot of releases through the whole body since everything in the horse is connected. So this little guy, I've been working on him a little bit already, and we found a little bit of tension up here in his pole. And so as I find tension here, what I'll do is I'll just kind of find a little point and I'll hold. And a lot of times you'll get a sleepy reaction from that, which he was giving me a lot of. And as that releases, I actually feel that muscle softening. And so that's how I know when I've thoroughly worked all that tension out. And normally you'll get some sort of a response from them, either like a long, slow blink, or a yawn, or a blowing of the nose. Something like that as that tension releases from their body. And see, that's what that is right there. And then so as I release, I go on down. A lot of horses you'll find a lot of tension in the brachiocephalic muscle, which runs through here. A lot of times when that muscle's tense, you'll find trouble picking up certain canter leads, tension bending, stuff like that. His isn't so bad, so I don't have a lot of work to do there, but it's a pretty common area of tension in the horse, and when I release there, you really feel a big difference in riding the horse. So. And then up here, another big muscle of the horse is the trapezius muscle. It's one of the larger muscles in the horse. It runs through here and through here. So it's kind of like almost like a triangle. Now that obviously is a very important muscle and a very high functioning muscle because it has to do with their neck and interacts with the shoulder and everything. He looks pretty good in there too, but I use the same technique that I would at the pole, where I just will search down, find tension, and then press and hold wherever I find anything until I get the release that I'm looking for. Once I get to the shoulder, I'll do a little bit faster pace motion to loosen that area up. This area gets a lot of tension because of, that's where the saddle sits, and so even if you have a pretty well-fitting saddle, you are still putting something on them and requiring them to move with it. So what you find up here is a lot of muscles will work hard to actually move the horse forward, and they're also working hard kind of fighting against the saddle, even if it, like I said, is a good saddle fit. So you'll find some tension up here. So I like to do a lot of faster motion things to get that blood really flowing in that area before I do any trigger point release. So once I'm done up here, I move down through the triceps. This muscle can definitely hold a lot of tension in the horse, and it'll get especially tense if the horse really likes being on the forehand, pulling themselves to the front of their body. This is also one of the more painful areas typically when I work, so I don't always get the most pleasant response when I'm here. Same with the pectoral muscles up here. When I'm working in there, a lot of times they'll be like, oh, I don't like that. But after a little bit of convincing, I can get the same relaxing response that I get in a more pleasurable area. So. Then I continue on down through the leg. And when I go through the leg, I don't really do a whole lot of work. I'm just pretty much checking for any kind of heat. Anything that I might want to alert the owner that might need attention from a vet. Something like that, because if you find any heat down in the area, you just want to make sure they're looking really good. Good boy. So then I go back up, recheck everything, make sure it's how I like it, and move back down through, get back up on that bladder meridian line, work my way through the back. Now, in this part of the back is typically where I'll find more reaction from them if they have any soreness, so you'll have back soreness here. Back soreness is a little bit more tricky to work on. You want to make sure you approach it very slowly. Because if you go too aggressive into the back and it's sore, you can actually make it more sore than it originally was. So I'm always very cautious here. I'll actually oftentimes make a few passes. So sometimes I'll come back. I'll loosen it up and I'll come back later in the session to make sure that I get everything out. And so I'll start with like large circles, kind of the same way like a horse would groom its friend in the field. Nice and relaxing. And then as I find any trigger points, I'll do the same thing where I'll hold and wait for a release. Now as I get back through the glutes, these are some of the biggest muscles of the horse. I continue along this bladder meridian line, work a little bit through here. Now this area has a lot of reactive spots. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's any tension there, but you know, up here you can do a lot of things to make them wiggle around. That's very normal. All horses will do that to some degree, so there's nothing to worry about there. But as I work here along this bladder meridian line, you definitely, as I release through here, you'll see this whole area loosen up. And that's why I like to use that line as my base, because then if this loosens up on its own, it's less, you know, work, and I can be more effective in that area afterwards. Now the glutes are the biggest muscle in the horse. A lot of power, you know, a lot of power comes from here. And as I work on these, I'll definitely use a little bit more strength. I'll get my body into it, because you need to do heavier motions through these muscles to make more of an impact. A lot of times you'll see some trigger points around the hip. I always check for those. He looks pretty good through there. And as I see everything's going along well, I'll start working down through to get to the hamstrings. See all they're going. If I was working on a horse that was a little bit more agitated, or you know, one that would likely kick me, there's a different way where you go about it, where you always want to make sure you have a hand on the hip as you work, because then if they pick their foot up to kick you, this arm automatically will push you away from the horse. Luckily I don't have to do that for very many of my clients. They all seem to enjoy it quite well. So the same thing, I'll kind of loosen that muscle up, and then once if I find anything that needs trigger point release, I'll go through and do that. That was a little bit of a fast version, but after I'm done with this side, I always go to the next and make sure I do a thorough job. I'll go back. If I found any areas that were especially tense, I'll go back and through a second swipe of them, because I always feel like time, once you can loosen that area up, give it a little bit of time and come back to it. That's the most effective way to really do a thorough job on the area, rather than attacking it all at once. So that's a basic quick version of an equine massage.